Wow, I'm just so surprised right now that, for the most part, it was a happy ending. And it didn't turn into something very dark, which that's what I expected thanks to the theme and the vibes I was getting from, this entire anime series. Still, I gotta admit, I feel it's very refreshing to have our two main characters, Mugi and Hana, not ending up with anyone. Now, hear me out. I know. I know normally when you're watching a romance, reading a romance manga, whatever, literature, whatever it is, I know many expect to see the characters end up with someone. That's just the common thing you look forward to when you're reading a series. You're curious to see the pairings, who's gonna be with who. And I feel like it's very refreshing that our characters ended up with no one, because for one, they went through a lot. They went through a lot when it came to the relationship with each other, but also what they wanted, their meaning of love, what they thought love was in the first place. I like how they ended up with no one, and they have to seek out the next person they love, because love doesn't just happen like that sometimes. Sometimes you have to seek it, and sometimes it'll be many, many years after your first love until you find another person to replace that love that is no longer there. For instance, what the main point of the series was about. So I do appreciate how Hana was able to continue walking forward. Mugi's walking forward in his own way, and I just like how both of them ended up with no one. They didn't end up together, which that's what I expected. I mean, if there was going to be any pairings together, I thought Hana and Mugi would have gotten together, but that did not happen, which I'm fine with. I'm glad Hana went off, did her own thing, and she's, fine with being alone if she has to, and Mugi's learning that same exact thing, too, with his life. Eventually, he will come to terms with it and be able to move forward. So, I mean, the direction of the ending, unexpected, but refreshing. Now, when it comes to Akane-sensei, I feel like many are going to be a little bit upset with this conclusion because of how Akane-sensei got the good end. She did. She legit got the good end of the series, which, in fact, I'm actually happy that she got that kind of ending, because, in a way, it represents how reality is, and also I feel like it's a fitting way to conclude her character because of her being a villain. Now, hear me out, okay? Akane-sensei is a character throughout the entirety of Scum's Wish that has been the main central antagonist of the series. She's someone that is, started so many problems. She is someone that was getting off to people, being into others, and she would jump in the middle of that relationship to try to, get in with this other person and ruin that relationship. She just got off on that. She got off on people desiring her when others desired this person that, was desiring her. She just got off on that constantly, and she was always for herself. She was going for her needs and seeking this thrill or whatever, but at the same time, she was very lonely. She wasn't showing her true self, and she was, in a way, very selfish. And when you see finally how she opens up with Kanai-sensei in these past two episodes, we can see how she's going through this change. And this episode represents that fact that her character has changed. If you remember, she never wanted to find someone to settle down with. She never wanted someone to be in a relationship with, like how she is with Kanai-sensei. So when you look at it like this, what happened to Akane-sensei may not have been what we might have wanted to see, but at the same time, it's a perfect way to kind of give her character the bad ending. In her mind, or the way she was at the beginning of the series, it's a bad ending for her. But in our viewpoint, it looks like it's a good ending. So it just depends on the way you view that with her character. But also, when it comes to reality, this is the truth. This is the cold, hard truth when it comes to reality. The actual real-world problems and stuff. Usually, the good guys don't always get the good ending. That's just the cold, hard truth. That's how it is. That's how life works. I mean, you could be a straight-up person, straight-up guy or girl, be a good person, deep down, you're doing everything right, trying to make the right decisions, and you just don't get that happy, good ending. But you see this asshole on the side that's doing this corrupt, evil shit, gets that very good and happy ending for the rest of their life, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, this doesn't make sense. This isn't fair. But that's how it is. Reality isn't fair. Life isn't fair, and that's kind of how this represents that. Akane-sensei got the good ending. She got the ending, which sometimes you would think the good, the villain should not get, but the good guy should get, and I like how the series is kind of slightly grounded in reality. Even though it's exaggerated, a lot of the relationships and the way the characters react and all that is exaggerated, I do like the way it has been represented throughout the series, and it's a very nice and refreshing take on the genre, a very different outlook on romance/drama for what I've seen over these past couple years. I mean, it's definitely different. It's definitely something I haven't really seen before in terms of the genre, and so I'm happy that I got to watch this series. I know many were upset with the series because of the way it handled the relationships of using a lot of sexual themes and stuff. I understand why many would be upset with that, but that's kind of how sometimes relationships are. That really is. It's exaggerated, like I said, but sometimes relationships just thrive off of that, and like I said, I love how different this was from everything I've watched in recent years, and I am glad I got to watch this, even though in some cases it made me feel a little bit like shit once I was finished watching an episode. It was still an enjoyable watch, and I'm actually kind of sad to finally see the series go, especially with this finale of, Kuzu no Honkai, but it was a very bittersweet but good and refreshing ending to the series. So let's talk about the art and animation. I've commented on that about once or twice maybe in the past, but I haven't really focused on it, and since this is my final review of Scum's Wish, I kind of want to get my overall thoughts on the art and animation. So I really love what the studio that was working on Scum's Wish did with the art and animation. The direction of it really made the series unique from this anime season, and in some cases, I could see how the art and animation might have been a way to save budget or production or just time and effort to work on certain scenes, but overall, I do appreciate the way the scenes gave a different life to the series. Even if it might have been a way to cut corners in terms of just making the episodes, I do love the manga panels. I love seeing the way the screen just shrunk down or whatever, and you just see the panels of the characters looking away or being alone. For instance, that one entire, manga panel, animated manga panel, when you see Hana by herself and it just zooms out, I love that. I love that part of the series, and I love the way manga panels are used throughout the entirety of this anime, and like I said, most likely it's used in a way to just cut production and allow it to be easier to animate, but it's still a very good choice for the series, and it just works. It just works. Even if I know that that's what they were probably using it for, it works for this series, and I am completely fine with that. And also on top of that, the music really gave a good vibe to the series. I love the way the music was done. The music really gave that emotion, and honestly, speaking about the opening and ending song of the series, they're probably my favorite. They're honestly probably my favorite, opening and ending song of this anime season. Now, don't get me wrong, I know the Aka opening is very good. It's one of my favorites from the anime season, but if I had to, put these two as a pair, for instance, opening and ending as, together, a part of the anime, and compare them together, like what has the best opening and ending song from any anime series of, Winter of Anime 2017, I would have to say I love Kuzu no Honkai the most. I love the way the music really carried some parts of the show. So, yeah, I mean, one last thing I do want to add, which I should have said in my art and, animation section of this video, I do like the visuals when it came to the smoke, like, the corruption or the darkness and light, type smoke coming in, that is the transitions throughout the episodes. I love that. It really added a nice, good vibe to the series, and the transitions between the certain scenes really fit some things that were going on with the characters, what they were feeling at the time, and so I'm completely satisfied with that. Even, other characters like Echan, and how she was able to come to terms with this, like certain things with, Hana, and move on, and when she cut her hair, it also symbolized that she changed as a person, too. I just love how, the episode or the series did that, and I'm satisfied. I'm personally satisfied with Scum's Wish, and I'm glad I watched it. I know many probably are upset that they watched this series, but I'm glad I watched it. So, yeah, I mean, besides all of that, I'm going to ask a question. How'd you feel about the series? How'd you feel about the way the relationships were displayed throughout the anime? How do you feel about, Akane Sensei's conclusion? Do you feel like she should have gotten that type of ending? Or do you feel like she should have gotten a darker ending, like, maybe getting STDs or something, or getting killed or whatever, stabbed? I mean, do you feel like something like that should have happened? But remember, this is kind of grounded in reality. At the end of the day, villains, evil people, tend to get good endings, or sometimes they get good endings, and good people don't usually get the good endings that they probably deserve, and that's kind of how this series is. Exaggerated, but that's how it is. So please be honest, and how do you feel about the conclusion? I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.